Hello, everybody. My name is Tony Wan. I'm here to talk about Chinese history. I've been teaching a class about Chinese history and culture at my house since I was a fourth grader. But because of COVID-19, I stopped. I recently donated all of my earnings from the class to buy face masks for hospitals. That's a lot of money. I purchased 16,000 face masks and 100 protective coverall suits and then sent them to the local hospitals. I hope these can help and protect the medical workers. Now I've decided to create an online class about history, mainly on Chinese history. To understand what was going on in the past, we must venture backwards, very far backwards. We're going to start from the very beginning when the world was created. Now, there are many legends, myths, and stories revolving around this idea of the creation of the known universe. But the traditional Chinese myth tells of the story of Pangu. His story is very famous, and a lot of people have heard of it, which is why I'm not going to tell you about it in detail. On the other hand, if you don't know the myth of Pangu, pause this video and go search it on YouTube. Now, I said that I wasn't going to tell you about it on detail, but we're actually going to take a look at the outline of the myth of Pangu. First, there was nothing, only chaos and void. Then, there came something. That thing, in this case being Pangu, created the whole entire world. This type of outline is seen multiple times throughout creation myths, including the Greek creation myth of chaos. At the beginning of the world, there was only chaos. Out of that emerged living beings. Pangu emerged, and Erebus and Nyx emerged from the Greek myth of chaos. So far, everything is similar, but from here is where we see the difference between the myth of Pangu and the myth of chaos. In the Greek myth, Nyx and Erebus didn't create the world themselves, unlike Pangu. They created Aether and Hemera, the aspects of upper air and day. And it was they who created Gaia, who was Earth, Tartarus, who was the ground below the underground, which is similar to Christian hell. And Tartarus is below hell. Wow, that's gotta be interesting. And also Eros, who was love, and Pontus, who was the ocean. Of course, Aether and Hemera created a lot of other deities, but this is not Greek mythology class, and if I was to list all of the deities, it would take considerable amount of time. Anyways, as you can see, the myth of Pangu is similar to the Greek myth of chaos. It's also similar to some other myths, including the Babylonian creation myth Enuma Elish, which has Marduk, the god of creation, magic, and judgment, put an end to Tiamat, the dragon of prime evil chaos. The Genesis creation story in Judaism and Christianity also bears some similarities to myths and creation myths such as Pangu and Enuma Elish and the Greek creation myth of chaos. When God first created heaven and earth, earth was without form and an empty void. But God then decided to take action and took 6 days to fix this. And on the 7th day, he rested. Most creation myths focus on this pattern: creation from chaos, or creation from simply nothing. The Norse creation myth also follows this pattern, but is more similar to the myth of Pangu. Before the dawn of time, and before the world was created, there was only a big vast darkness and emptiness called Ginnungagap. To the north of Ginnungagap, there was a place called Niflheim. Nilfheim was a very dark and cold place, and it only consists of ice, frost, and fog. To the south of Ginnungagap, there's a place called Muspelheim. It is a land of fire, and it consists only of lava, smoke, and, of course, fire. As time passed, the lava from Muspelheim and the frost from Nilfheim both flowed into Ginnungagap. They met and created Ymir, the ancestor of all Jotun, also known as frost giants. The first being lived in peace, but it eventually got interrupted. Sometime after Ymir was born, Buri, the first god, emerged from a salty rock. His grandson would be the famous Odin. Odin and his brothers decided to battle Ymir and sacrifice him to use his corpse to make the world. And his brothers were Vili and Ve. They ambushed Ymir, and it was a fierce battle, but they ultimately defeated him. The blood of Ymir became oceans, rivers, and lakes. The flesh of Ymir became the land. The bones of Ymir became mountains. The teeth of Ymir were made into rocks. The hair became the grass and the trees. And finally, the eyelashes became Midgard, which is the Norse version of Earth. Now, make some connections between the two of the myths. Which part of the Norse creation myth was the most similar to Pangu's myth? A, the beginning, B, the middle, or C, the ending? Well, there isn't technically a right answer. It's more of an opinion question. For choice A, there was chaos and nothingness in Pangu's myth, and while there was Ginnungagap in Norse mythology, there was a whole ton of other realms and planes and things that existed, such as Nilfheim and Muspelheim, like I said before. For choice B, well, the first being of Norse myth, Ymir, was created by two separate things, while Pangu broke out of the cosmic egg by his own will. You see, these don't really have much in common. For choice C, Pangu sacrificed his body to create the world, but Ymir didn't sacrifice himself. Odin and his brothers did. You can see that all of the parts aren't exactly the same, but I'm going to say that choice C was the best choice, and choice B was the least correct, and it was the least similar to Pangu's myth. Let me know in the comments section which one you thought. Today we have clarified the creation of the world in many ways. Next time we'll start with the actual history. If you like my class, please subscribe and click on the notification bell so you'll get a notification every time I post a new class. I'll see you next Monday. Bye, folks. That's the end.